is Pei Chen, or you can call me Vivian. And just like every rational person, we strive for goods at the cheapest price. Imagine if given a choice to buy a shirt for $30 compared to $8 for the same shirt, more than likely people will buy the $8 shirt. There are many reasons for cheap products, but the cheapest form of labor that I will be discussing today is child labor. According to the International Labor Organization, 168 million children worldwide are engaged in child labor as of 2013. My major claim is that child labor sustains poverty by rendering these children helpless to secure the future of their country. My three claims are that child labor decreases the life expectancy of children, doesn't allow them enough time to have an education, and makes it difficult for anyone over 17 to find employment. My first claim is that child labor decreases the life expectancy of children. According to the International Labor Organization, child laborers are between the ages 5 to 17. These children usually work in poor conditions, doing strenuous tasks that harm them both physically and mentally. An example I've taken from the Food Empowerment Project article. Children in Africa who pick cocoa beans use chainsaws and machetes to cut bean pods down. They carry these bags that weigh more than 100 pounds, and if they don't rush to bring back the bag, they were beaten. Worldwide, the International Labor Organization estimates 22,000 children are killed at work every year. My second claim is that child labor doesn't allow children enough time to get an education. According to the World Counts article, child labor in the chocolate industry, depending on where they worked, the type of work they were doing, and the working conditions they were under, the average hours worked by one child could range from between 14 to 38 hours a week or 80 to 100 hours a week. Time spent working takes away from studying, playing, sleeping. Going back to the Food Empowerment Project's article on cocoa farms, 10% of child laborers in Ghana and 40% in the Ivory Coast do not attend school. Without an education, the children of cocoa farms have little hope for ever breaking the cycle of poverty. My third claim is that child labor makes it difficult for anyone over 17 to find employment. According to Edmund and Pavick's journal, children either work for cheap or compensated by other means such as meals, receiving food and board with another family, or bondage. Child labor persists because it depresses adult wages, making child labor necessary. My opposition to my own claim is that from an economic standpoint, because the labor is so cheap, it makes products cheaper for consumers like us to buy. To wrap up, my major claim is that child labor sustains poverty by rendering children helpless to secure the future of their country. My three claims were that child labor decreases life expectancy of children, doesn't give them enough time to have an education, and makes it difficult for anyone over 17 to find employment. There are benefits to child labor from an economic standpoint, but it's not worth a child's arm, leg, or life. Thank you.
All right, well, the proposition's identified, and there's a very clear structure, so that, all the organizational stuff I think is in pretty good shape. I'm not exactly sure how much controversy there is, because I doubt that there's anybody who thinks that child labor is a good thing, but whether or not it is as drastically problematic as you've described, I think there might be some dispute about that, and whether or not the work conditions that you're describing are either representative or in fact due to the suppression that you talk about in that third point. I think we need a little bit more data on that. The signposts in the body of the speech are pretty clear. Like I said, I think you described some pretty good examples in your presentation. The cocoa farming issue, for instance, I thought was pretty straightforward. You talk about the conditions. It was a little strange on some of the statistical information because it sounded to me like sometimes the range of work was in a pretty narrow range and other times it was incredibly large range, and so I'm not sure that we can make a generalization here. It sounds like it varies in the context or the setting in which the labor is taking place. And then, of course, there's a value argument here underlying this, and that is that education is more important, that it's going to fix a particular problem. I don't get any data that says education is going to fix problems for people in these particular parts of the world, especially if they lack resources or the ability to develop those resources. I think we already heard an argument that suggested there are all kinds of other issues that are explaining these kinds of problems. Globalization, it's globalization's fault. Maybe this is a component of globalization, or maybe there's exploitation by overdeveloped countries or more developed countries. So there maybe is a potential argument to be made there. Let's see. I thought, like I said, that you had some good examples to make your point interesting. You usually did a good job citing the sources on that material. You're reading a little bit. The summary is fine. The economic data, I think, is a little problematic. I think that, especially for instance, on the unemployment numbers on that third point, I didn't really even hear any data on unemployment about people who are over the age of 17 in these places versus the employment level of people who are under 17, who are the children in those particular conditions. The notion that it's related to utilizing children, I think, like I said, there is definitely exploitation that goes on of kids. Nobody's going to dispute that, but I hate to say it this way, but kids have been exploited for centuries. That's why parents had more kids, for years and years and years. That was the reason. You got to have more kids to be able to work the farm or take care of whatever is going on, whatever jobs had to be done. And so the question then becomes, why is this dramatically different? If it's different because somebody's exploiting that resource, then I think there's an argument to be made. And you do kind of suggest a little bit of a guilt thing because the companies are trying to hold prices down based on what they pay the workers. I think we need some comparison on wages and what's sustainable. If poverty is, whatever we heard in the other speech, $2 a day, something like that, if the kids are being paid less than the $2 a day, then that sounds like it would be exploitive. I don't know what they're being paid. We don't really get that data here, except that we do know that some of them don't get paid anything. They just get indentured or they are provided a place to live. And again, how much of that is in that category, that wasn't very clear. All right, thank you.